But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Being kind is the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, cut and paste a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Yes. This isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise, and this is the stream where we look at all of the interesting bullshit that YouTube has to offer, particularly political YouTube. And I think we've got a number of interesting possibilities here. Actually, a few things that are actually quite different to what we usually have, but I wanted to just throw them out there because it occurred to me they might be interesting. So, I'm going to start out with the usual stuff and we'll move on down to the something different. In the meantime, just wanted to announce I've just made it over the halfway mark on the funding of the Inessa Armand Translation Project. Like 50.68%. Like just this evening I just made it over the 50% line. Thank you to everyone who has supported the project so far and everyone who decides to going forward. So we've got some loser box. Hasan viewer comes in hot. De-radicalizes mid-debate. LOL. We've got, okay, there's this complete scumbag. It was made aware of him by Thought Slime. You may have seen the video he did called I Investigate YouTube's Biggest Scumbag. And, I mean, Tyler Oliveira definitely earns that moniker. And so I decided to see what else he's done. We've got Inside Pennsylvania's Immigrant Invasion. Promisingly, in the thumbnail, it has somebody pointing out that he's racist. Then we have Inside the Rise of Germany's Neo-Nazis, which he puts in scare quotes for reasons. And we've got the Young Turfs. Trump gives shocking answer to trans rights question. Bernie Sanders' political organization says populism, God, I hate that word, is better than identity politics. It's like two of the most misused, most annoying fucking asshole buzzwords in the ecosystem, all in one video title right there. We've got the David Pakman show. We can and must resist Trump's authoritarianism. Not because I disagree with the overall point, but I have a feeling that what David Pakman means by resist is not actually resisting. But we'll see. Then we've got David Pakman again. Trump not even president yet, already humiliating USA. He says that like it's a bad thing. From Density, we've got leftist confronts destiny for wanting to cut out the extreme left. Like, the premise here being that there are ties with the extreme left that he could cut. Bonsoir, hello River Rune, how you doing? Then we've got Density. Anna Transphobian tells Glenn Beck why she ditched the left and wants to ally with MAGA. Then in the Xanderhole universe, we has MAGA created a post-truth America? Ben Shapiro points out that federal employees are still working fully remote, and I have a feeling that that isn't all federal employees, actually. But, I mean, I'm mostly interested in this one because it's another example of the ruling class taking precautions they tell us that we shouldn't be taking. Then we've got more Ben Shapiro. The media is justifying violence by calling Brian Thompson evil. Ben Shapiro, murder is hot, saving lives is not. It's the end of 2024. Apparently, that's how you know it's the end of 2024? I don't know. Then we've got... This is a talk that was given by a guy... He has great stuff on YouTube by the name of Deviant Olive. He is what's called a physical pen tester, which is to say he breaks into places in order to test whether you can break into places in order to tell them where their security holes are. And in this talk, he talks about how that works. We've also got another one on the same with the same guy, Hotel Hacking Havoc with Deviant Olive. And those aren't there because they're reactionary bullshit or liberal bullshit. They're just there because they're interesting, and I thought maybe they might be interesting to you. Then we've also got Hasan, what's really going on with Cenk, and I'm just curious what I'm more reacting to Cenk there than to Hasan. I'm just kind of curious about that one. And, okay, the Young Turfs, Piers Morgan blows up at Taylor Lorenz over her reaction to murdered CEO. So, we got a bunch of options here. So, we got some Loserbucks, we got some Tyler Scumbag Oliveira, we've got the Young Turfs, we got David Pakman, Density, Xander Hole, Ben Shapiro, and then stuff on physical pen testing and shit like that. That's just, I have it on there because it's really cool. So what's everybody thinking? Any particular preferences you hearing? Oh, I just realized Ben Shapiro is drawing a juxtaposition between the perforation of that United Healthcare CEO and right-wing hero, the Subway Strangler. Now that's a short one. Why don't we start that off? Start with that. And see where we go from there. Let's do. We'll do that one after this one. How about? Hey, Hail Satine, how you doing?
Well, Democrats in the media did their best to make Kamala Harris proud, and they failed. They tried to tell us that Joe Biden was alive, and they failed. Well, now they're trying to turn
I mean, okay.
alleged murderer of a health insurance CEO into this year's new hot thing.
Wait, he's saying the Democrats are doing that? All I've seen Democrats doing on Twitter is talking about how horrible it is. And it's always the same Democrats who don't seem to have a problem with it when the U.S. and Israel drop, 20 or 30, 22,000-pound bombs on a residential area. But apparently when it's a United CEO, suddenly lives matter.
Who's the best guy around?
What about the key-holy murder?
What murder?
That's right. This past week, legacy media and lonely cat-owning true crime podcast fans were obsessed with the mysterious man who gunned down execution-style Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. He's also the father of 2 teenage boys, a detail that not so many people like to include in their...
I wonder if any of the people who've had their lives ruined or ended by Brian Thompson also had kids, Ben.
Reverse fanfiction. Even when there was only just fuzzy surveillance footage released to encourage the public to find the fugitive, you'd think this guy was Jonathan Taylor Thomas in the mid-90s.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home Improvement.
You know that guy whose poster you had in your room? Oh, him!
With thirsty men and women calling him things like socialist daddy or a claims adjuster, putting him...
Yeah, I love how he's trying to make this sound not cool. This I should note, last week we watched a video and we looked at his comments, and he was getting cooked by his own viewers over his take on this. And so this is him doubling down, because his money comes more from, people who are aligned with the insurance industry than it does with the dickheads who watch Ben Shapiro.
Him on a pedestal for literally shooting a stranger in the back and then running away from the authorities. When he was eventually caught in a McDonald's.
Well, let's just note, we don't know if he was eventually caught in the McDonald's. We know that a guy got caught. We know that the cops say it's the same guy. We also know that it may or may not actually be the case, because the cops have this thing they do where they say things and it's not actually true. His lawyer, anyway, has in a public statement said that if there's any evidence that actually links his client Luigi Mangione to the scene, he hasn't seen it. So we don't know if they caught the guy actually, and hopefully they didn't.
By the way, the fervor and primal horniness only amped up. There's one post from an ex.
Fervor and primal horniness are two things that he has never inspired. That's why he resents them so much.
Positively fourth-esque after the killer, Luigi Mangione, was apprehended. Quote, if Luigi Mangione is sent to prison for this heroic shooting of that evil blood-sucking scumbag, may I be the first to volunteer for conjugal visits. I've never met him, but out of respect for what he's done, and also for the way he looks, he can conjugate me anytime. Winky face.
Wow, I mean, this is just Ben Shapiro getting salty over the fact that people think somebody other than him is hot. I mean, remember, this is the guy who thought that getting wet was the sign of a vaginal infection? Because he's never actually caused that to happen?
Face emoji. That person sounds stable. Definitely not psychotic. Well, it's just possible that X account is a burner for former Washington Post journalist and current insane person, Taylor Lorenz.
Oh, it's possible, therefore it must be true. He says it's just possible. Like, there's no reason to believe that it's true. He's given us no reason to believe it's true. He's just convinced that despite the fact that even his own, he's jealous. Even his own viewers are saying, actually, this was kind of based. And, disputing his attempt to make this about the revolutionary left. I mean, no, we're no slouches, but, I mean, we can't take credit for this shit. This is everybody. This is like just random ass normal people, because everybody hates the health insurance industry. But so he has to assume that it's all one person. And since the Fash are obsessed with Taylor Lorenz because she embarrassed Chaya Raichik, aka Libs of TikTok, in an interview that was very ill-advised on Raichik's part, they've decided to sort of just double down on that.
Last 2 days, thirst posting for Mangione and laughing for joy about his murderousness.
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, because it feels like...
Wait, Piers fucking Morgan, this is what I'm talking about. Piers Morgan doesn't get to act like fucking righteous about this. He has been coming up with excuse after excuse for why, sometimes you just gotta, burn a fucking shelter full of displaced people to the ground. Or, sometimes you gotta drop 5,000-pound bombs on a fucking tent encampment with no shelter. And now, of course, he values the sanctity of life. We got fucking Piers Morgan, everybody. Wow.
Seriously?
This is...
Joy?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy.
That's not exactly a shock coming from the same person who just a week ago rage posted that people were coming to her events and, quote, raw dogging the air.
Wait, so he's saying that because she was encouraging people to take basic health precautions in the middle of an ongoing pandemic that is still killing huge numbers of people, except now the government isn't counting anymore, at least not publicly. So we're supposed to pretend that it isn't. So he's trying to say that obviously so obviously somebody who thinks that people should take care of themselves and each other and avoid spreading lethal and debilitating disease would not feel terribly broken up about a dead insurance CEO. Okay, that's fine. Oh, thank you, Riverroon. That sounds very interesting.
Which is a terrible description of breathing.
You might have somebody come up to you and ask if you enjoy raw dogging.
Then again, not a shock. This is a person who probably has a tattoo.
I do not want to hear fucking twat mulch talking about raw dogging.
Breathe in, breathe out on her arm just to remind her how to stay alive. Anyway, there's a whole new merch industry cropping up over the Abercrombie assassin. Like this United Healthcare shirt that includes a crosshairs and the slogan, "We aim to please." So classy. Remember that time the leftists didn't like guns? Another reason.
Oh, wait, no. See, that's where you got it wrong. First of all, he's still trying to make this about leftists. Even though, again, his own fucking audience, people. His own audience. We're in there, in the comments. But, yeah, no, actually, leftists aren't the ones who are big on gun control. There's a reason they say you go far enough left, you get your guns back.
My boyfriend, with the now infamous picture of a shirtless Mangione positioned in a heart.
What's infamous about it other than Ben Shapiro doesn't like that nobody's ever wanted to see a picture of him shirtless?
It's going to be a hell of a shock to Mangione when he finds his fellow inmates wearing that shirt just before shower time.
Actually, apparently, I've heard, this is not confirmed, that in the remand center where he's currently being held after being arrested at that McDonald's, his fellow incarcerated people have been chanting "Free Luigi."
What's that? You want an anime mug of the killer? Well, sure, they got that up within hours. Now you can show that you love murder and you've never been laid while enjoying your chai latte.
Wait, he's gonna talk about never having been laid?
eBay has stickers, lawn signs, cell phone cases, most calling to free the prisoner. And Etsy has over 800 items alone donning the phrase, "Deny, defend, depose," the words etched into the assassin's bullet casings. If this was an Oliver Stone movie, you'd be like, okay, that should never happen. But the media
yeah, I know. He's just so fucking... Because everything he does is about as organic as microplastics. Okay? So he just hates that, all this money that he has that has been pumped into making Ben Shapiro a thing, all this marketing, all this propaganda, all this bullshit to make him into something when you just have to listen to him for 5 minutes to see he is not something. He is the opposite of something. Whereas, somebody goes out and is accused of shooting a popular hate figure, and suddenly they get organic reach that Ben Shapiro could only dream of. And a chance at getting laid, which Ben Shapiro could only dream of.
Released prisoner photos of this guy, like they ran his OnlyFans. Are they trying to find his best lighting? Is this jail or a J. Crew catalog? They took fewer pictures on America's Next Top Model. Google users...
That's the same fucking picture with different filters on it, for fuck's sake.
But at the McDonald's location where Mangione was caught, with hundreds of negative reviews, forcing the tech company to remove one...
He is so fucking salty. He's so mad. He's trying to make this act again. He's trying to make this look, this look like some sort of nothing thing. It's just the wild leftists or whatever like that. And just with all the stuff he keeps on pointing out, it becomes that much clearer that no, this is actually kind of a broad-based thing.
Policies. Quote, more like narc-Donald. I hope obesity and heart disease are in network in Pennsylvania. One user posted as part of the review bombing. Trolls left reports of rats in the kitchen. Which at least is a decent play on words. And warned customers of food...
Oh, well, if he allows that it's a decent play on words, then...
Poisoning. While one absolute monster actually protested outside the McDonald's. All in all, big year for McDonald's. And we may never know the identity of the employee hero who actually turned in the shooter.
Wow, Ben Shapiro, that's gotta hurt. I don't know what would hurt more. You got millions of people saying fuck the snitch, or the fact that the person calling him a hero is Ben Shapiro. God, if you're called a hero by Ben Shapiro, you just immediately, I think, have to undo whatever it was you did.
Folks, we'll get some more on this in a moment. First, as social unrest escalates and crime rates climb, securing the safety of our families is more crucial than ever. I'm about as pro-Second Amendment as it gets. But using lethal force is not good for everyone. That's why you need to check out Burnham. Protecting families is literally nothing more important in life. You wouldn't want to take
Oh god, okay, so we got ads.
A non-lethal self-defense platform. Pierce technology, where the CO2 canister an attacker for over 30 minutes. It's accurate. With Burnham, you'll be potentially save lives on both sides, protecting both user and After Dark on Daily Wire Plus, brought to you by friends over at Burnham. Listen, I know I caught a lot of shit for this online because I have a general aversion to cold-blooded murder.
No, you don't. That's the point. Everybody is actually... The thing is you don't. You literally have no such aversion. You are no... Your entire online persona at this point is heavily invested in pointing out just how cool you are with cold-blooded murder.
And the justification of it based on the lie that complex systems can be fixed through an act of sheer simplistic willpower.
Well, is anyone seriously saying that this fixed the system, though? I mean, this is the same line we heard from Caleb Muppet yesterday.
Just get rid of the profit motive and everyone will live forever.
Chad, is anyone saying communism brings immortality?
It's actually one of the dumbest ideas in all of human history. In fact, there's only one idea that's even dumber. Let's kill everyone who takes part in capitalism in order to fix it.
Nobody's talking about killing everyone who takes part in capitalism. He tried this line the first time. We saw him do this last week. Like, nobody's saying that. Because the thing about capitalism is we're all somehow taking part in it. Because capitalism is everywhere.
It's the world. Guys, they tried this, and it killed like 100 million people. Fortunately, we have...
They tried what exactly? They tried the Joker, and it killed 100 million people?
Senators who expressed such ideas. Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is the inoperable brain tumor of politics, said, quote, "This is a warning that if you push people hard enough, they lose faith in the ability of their government to make change."
I mean, I'm not actually a fan of Warren, but that sounds about right, yeah. In fact, the thing is, they shouldn't have had that faith in the first point. It's not so much that they lose faith, is that they realize that that's not how it's going to happen.
For the answer. But people can be pushed only so far. As MC Hammer put it, there's always a big but. Hold on to your butt. Hey, maybe since
that wasn't MC Hammer, you dickhead. That was Sir Mix-a-Lot. Nee, also tue ich nicht. Ich konzentriere mich halt auf...
Or you could keep cosplaying the revolution the same way you've been cosplaying your Native American heritage.
Wait, she's not cosplaying any revolution, though. She's just... And also, has she... My understanding was after she did that DNA bullshit, which of course, the only reason she would have done that is if she thought it was going to come out and, like, confirm what she had... what she'd been saying all this time. The only reason you would do that is if you actually believed that it was going to come out confirming what you'd been saying. You wouldn't do this if you didn't believe it. So, and my understanding is that she had actually stopped doing that ever since she did that DNA bullshit.
For literally decades. In fact, the one senator who got it right is the one who's relied the most in the recent past on the healthcare industry, Senator John Fetterman. Fetterman's...
And yes, I mean, in the sense of, like, financially relying on them. And who, it's worth noting, as a senator, and before that as a politician of various other sorts, has better health care than almost anybody in the country.
Said, quote, "He's the asshole that's going to die in prison."
I mean, and let's remember, John Fetterman, I mean, who is a better spokesmodel for the sanctity of life than John Fetterman, the guy who, like, you go on his Twitter and he's just constantly coming in his pants at the genocide in Gaza.
Congratulations if you want to celebrate that. A sewer is going to sewer. That's what social media is about this. The guy with brain damage is now the smartest person in the entire Democratic Party, by far. Listen, everybody has problems with the American healthcare system.
Really? Everybody? It sounds like some people are doing quite well with it. Especially the people who own it.
Mainly because it's a shit show between the insane subsidization and reimbursement schemes of Medicare and Medicaid.
It's so funny when they like pull that out, because Medicare and Medicaid are easily the most cost-effective parts of the health insurance of the so-called healthcare system in the U.S. precisely because they are not operated for profit. There is no the siphoning, and in fact, if you look at the bits that are actually not that are less cost-effective, they are precisely the bits where the profit motive is allowed in.
The absurd regulatory frameworks set by the federal government and the states, and the massive medical liability industry, we got some problems. But zero.
They're still trying to make that a thing. They already won on that. It is basically impossible to sue for malpractice in much of the country.
Those problems are solved by Bay Guevara murdering an individual healthcare executive. What precisely is the limiting principle here? Should oil executives be murdered because crazies think they're creating environmental damage to...
Wait, he's saying that there's no environmental damage being caused by the oil industry?
Global warming? Should bank executives be murdered because they deny loans to people with bad credit histories? Should toy company executives be killed because they're pricing the Furbies too high? Should Kathleen Kennedy be murdered because she wrecked Star Wars?
You will not take it from me!
Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, I know a leader you will love.
Like, I mean, it's so fascinating just watching him pretend that he actually, that this is a principled stance of his.
Until you charge too high a price for something, and then this happens to you.
Wait. Is he saying that Trotsky got on Stalin's shit list because he charged too high of a price?
As for the politicians pushing this trash, someone might want to ask them a quick question. Aren't you the people in charge of the system? If so, you might want to be careful in case Luigi Maggio decides to update his hit list.
No comment. Okay. There we go. So, where was it? Okay. We're gonna look at this Hasan thing about Zheng. Because I'm curious.
If anyone...
And I heard some other people in chat were curious about it. Never really watched much Hasan, although the people who don't like him are people who I have negative respect for.
That I had actually talked to, anyone that I like.
I mean, the last time Hasan got a look in on this stream, it was because Xander Hole was berating him for not lying to his audience about Gaza, because apparently, if Hasan should have been lying about Gaza, and that would have made everything better. Which is another way of saying that what actually lost the Democrats the election was their commitment to genocide.
But debated or whatever, treated me like the way you did, I would never, ever in a million years allow that.
Why is he whisking a bowl of flour, though? Like, there are sifters for that.
Thanksgiving was him insisting that you be called something other than progressive left or whatever. Yeah, I don't know what's up with him on that front. Yeah, I think what anyone who is in support of the working class in the United States of America, you know what they need most? More sectarian infighting. We need more labels and we need more infighting, and what we need to do is just like spend every moment with the limited amount of power.
Well, see, I don't think that labels, like, I mean, yeah, there are labels that are useful, there are labels that are less useful, but I don't think they inherently mean infighting. I think the reason you get, different labels of different tendencies and things like that is that there are disagreements that exist that, at the very least, to those involved in them, are important enough that they've decided to have separate organizational structures. And that's not in itself a bad thing. It's actually probably a really good thing that we have lots of people trying different approaches, since none of us really knows what is actually going to do it. None of us, if anyone had already had like the magic formula for revolution, the revolution already would have happened. So I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. I mean, as long as people are like, as long as those disagreements don't prevent constructive collaboration on things where people agree on. I mean, like, look at the resistance in Gaza, for example. That's an excellent example. You got, like, Maoists, you got Marxist-Leninists, you got various flavors of, like, Islamic resistance groups who formed separately for reasons that would seem to suggest, at least, that there was some sort of disagreement that led them to want to have a separate organizational structure between them. But when it comes to the genocide in Gaza, they come together and they fight as one. Like, I mean, that's not bad. That's actually, I mean, the separate nature of the organizations and their ideological differences does not prevent them working together. It's not, I mean, there are worse models there than that when it comes to working together on things that we actually all can agree on. So I don't think that sectarianism is inherently a bad thing on the left.
Fractional amount of power and influence that we already have, which is nothing. It's marginal. It's basically inconsequential. What we should do is use all of the finite amount of energy that we have instead of organizing against, like, growing fascism in this country or organizing against the Democratic Party that refuses to listen to the very reasonable demands being made by the populist left. What we should do instead is fight each other over disagreements. Him screaming, "I'm the left. They're not the left." Yeah.
Well, I mean, the question is, see, there are situations where, like, if somebody is saying they're not the left, there are two possibilities. Either that person is being extremely hyperbolic about somebody who objectively would fall within a reasonable definition of what the left is. I mean, or there's some genuine fundamental issue that is underlying them saying that.
It's just, I don't know how I don't know how much more I can talk about this. It's like, I think it's like wholly unproductive.
But when are we going to talk about Jank?
And completely silly. I hate to see Unk on Unk violence like that. Unk Shaky Gurga coming after Unk Sam Cedar. Not good. Didn't like that. It seems so unproductive to talk about this. I don't know how Jank does it. Yeah, I think he's just like really upset. I like so much of his anger and resentment would go away if he simply stopped being on Twitter, I think, or
if he stopped being such a fucking opportunist. I mean, right now the reason he's getting all sorts of shit is because he keeps on wanting to do far-right stuff. And he's built a following of people who one thing that they can all agree on is that they don't like that.
Stopped listening to any criticisms coming from, Majority Report or anywhere else. What is this? Jake is 100% cooked, bruh.
Majority Report jumped in, and Lance from the Serfs, and all the other little dirty...
Yeah, they jumped in. Yeah, because you said some seriously transphobic shit at a time when trans people are massively under attack. And, I mean, it was so ridiculous. Because... I mean, he talks about it like he was, like, viciously attacked. And the reality is that most of the people that he's listing there, like Lance from the Serfs and Majority Report, all of them were bending over backwards to be nice about it.
Jumped in, and they were like, "Jake and Tanner are turning right. The 13 dudes."
I think I got to him a little bit, though, last night after Shaky Gurga Giving, where I had a conversation with him, because he was like, why do you think, because we were talking about, like, why CNN and all these other, like, traditional outlets are more receptive to what I have to say than him. And he always thinks it's because I'm hot and young and cool and hip. And he's not. He's old and rough.
And that, I mean, it does not surprise me that he would, mainstream media? That is weird.
And I was like, no, Dude, it's because of the way you carry yourself. Like I have my criticisms of mainstream outlets all the time. I have my criticisms of other commentators. I have my disagreements with them. But like the energy that you bring to any conversation, including someone like myself who loves you, like I straight up told him, I was like, if anyone that I had actually talked to, anyone that I like quote unquote debated or whatever, treated me like the way you did, like I would never ever in a million years allow that. Like I would never allow that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a way about him where he sort of talks, he says some bullshit and says it in a way that suggests that if you don't agree with him on it, then there must be something wrong with you.
And if you're having that energy with me, someone, you love, your nephew, then, yeah, I'm assuming you carry that energy with a lot of people you don't know that well, who don't have that familial relationship, and, yeah, that breeds resentment, that breeds anger, and it's, like, overall very unnecessary, And I think he got that. He understood that a little bit, because I was like, listen, I would never allow another person to talk to me like the way you talk to me, and of course, it doesn't mean anything between you and I, because...
Now I'm curious. When was this? Oh, this is 2 weeks ago. Okay. Because some of the stuff he was talking about was from months ago.
See me.
I wanted to make sure that when this was.
Like, you're my uncle. I love you, but like that's if you're doing that to me, I'm assuming you do that to other people as well. And yeah, they probably.
I don't know. Some people only do that stuff to family.
Yeah. I think the thing about Jank is that he's not like, I don't think a grifter implies that there isn't like a genuine attitude change, okay? A grifter implies that there isn't a genuine attitude change. I think he's just like genuinely has a difference in opinion in the issues that he speaks on, where he's like legitimately more conservative on those issues.
Well, I mean, the thing is that on some of those issues, he was legitimately taking a different stance on them just months before he decided to take his current stance. And his current stance is considerably more lucrative.
Whether it happened over the course of the last couple of years, but I don't know if it happened like super fast, but I think that there has been an attitude shift. I basically tried to get him to come to that conclusion.
I mean, I will say, I think that at least part of what's going on there is that fundamentally TYT are Democrat stands. And the Democrats were trying to move away from being associated with LGBT people and anyone who cares about them. And around the time the Democrats were sort of trying to extricate themselves from any expectation they'd be any better for LGBT people than, say, Trump, that is around the time that Cenk is also deciding to just come out as a total bigot on the subject.
Like, I try to walk through the steps slowly but surely by being like, there was a point where you were a fighter. You've always been a progressive fighter, right? You did not worry yourself about like what the democratic wishes of the base of support in the party looks like. You don't worry about that when it comes to Medicare for all because you know that's right. And you.
Well, I don't see. Okay, but. I mean, that is a case where if you were to be concerned with the, like, democratic wishes of the base, whoever you define as the base, you'd be talking about something that actually was genuinely popular with them.
You know that if you champion that message, then, like, people will inevitably come on board with that. But it seems like for a lot of these other issues, you're willing to cast aside certain groups in the way that you communicate about these issues because you're terrified of the fact that there is no solution that the Democratic Party will offer them. Even the abortion conversation.
Yeah, actually, that sounds a lot like what I was trying to say there.
And that wasn't supposed to be like me finding out what his perspective is. I was just trying. I thought that we were in agreement on abortion, that any sort of legislative hurdle like that on a process that already is like automatically limited to the people that need it desperately, given the invasive nature of the surgery and the cost of it alone, that any sort of additional...
And it's worth noting, it only becomes a surgical thing if you're forced to wait long enough that it has to be.
Legislative hurdle is going to cause problems in the same vein that like any sort of restriction on abortion that causes problems. And then I wanted to use that as an example to bring it back to the subject matter on like, 3 strikes and you're out. It's a felony conversation, Because when you add additional restrictions on our already very restrictive, very draconian criminal justice system, you end up, it's the dynamic that...
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, that is another thing that TYT have been absolutely shitballs on, is anything to do with reform of the criminal system, anything to do with reducing the massive, like, world record-breaking prison population, and maybe not putting everybody in prison.
That, 3 jewelry thefts, like the guy who stole jewelry 3 times versus the guy who stole pizza 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, there are a significantly larger number of people who will be stealing 3 slices of pizza over, doing jewelry theft.
Well, yeah, and the thing about people stealing slices of pizza is they're not doing that as part of some sort of an organized gang or something like that. They're doing that because they're hungry and they don't have the money. Or they're like trying to impress somebody. I would say majority theft of food and with the inherent risk that comes with it, it's probably people who are hungry and don't have the money for it. And then the problem, if you want to stop people stealing food, well, you need to make sure that they have enough to eat, for example, and maybe aren't working for starvation wages.
And yes, I think that the way the law works is you're supposed to, because it's so broad sweeping, yes, you either say, nah, like all of those people have to go to prison, all of those people that like steal, here and there, they have to go to prison because they're routine offenders and repeat offenders, rather than it just, as long as the guy who's like stealing jewelry is...
Yeah, and the thing is, this isn't even... this is actually a very narrow view of the problem with this sort of thing, with these 3 strikes laws, because what they actually do is create prosecutorial discretion. And what prosecutors use it for is to get people to plead out on bullshit charges, because if they take the risk of a trial, they might end up doing life for, stealing $1.50's worth of fucking toothpaste or some shit.
Going to prison too. I don't think that that's all right. Anyway, your point about your core values being that you're okay with a jewel thief being free if it means the 3 pizza guy is free also resonated well, I think. I hope people...
It's worth noting that the U.S. is unusual in how many relatively trivial offenses result in incarceration. A lot of shit that people in the U.S. are in prison for all sorts of shit that, assuming they were actually convicted, because other places take the right to counsel a little bit more seriously, a lot of other places put some serious restrictions on what cops are allowed to do in interrogations and shit like that. But even if you get convicted, you would be looking at a fine or probation or community service or something like that. The threshold for actually having a custodial sentence is way higher in other countries, a lot of them.
Understood what I was saying. Like, that doesn't mean that, we shouldn't prosecute rape or whatever. And that doesn't even mean we shouldn't prosecute grand larceny or theft of all these different varieties. It's just that, like, when it comes to criminal justice reform, you either have the opinion of, like, we need more deterrence, we need more violence in the criminal justice system that will operate as a deterrent to stop people and make people think twice before they do engage in crime, or we need to dramatically move in the opposite direction where we focus on rehabilitation.
Like, if
to lower recidivism rates. as other countries have successfully done. And we need to address the root causes in which crime manifests. And I think there is a crisis here.
I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Liberals that are also caving on those fears that they very effectively communicate to. And not only is it, but those fears are also coming out of real societal problems. And I fear that if there isn't a massive base that recognizes the problem and works actively to try and fix it, we're just going to keep bouldering towards fascism. I think he envies you and is poisonous. You're ridiculous, dude. That's my uncle. He does not envy me. He is.
I wouldn't entirely surprise me, but
very proud and very happy for my.
But I have a feeling that
that's crazy.
I don't think that's the main issue. I was hoping that what's the deal with Cenk was going to be more to do with this massive rightward turn, and maybe Hasan isn't the best person to look at for that because their family, he if anything is going to be giving him. He's going to be, softening the blow.
We got. Even in China, you have nothing to do with China. You gotta stop. They're Nazis. You gotta. Okay.
I mean, I'm 100% right. Every fact show did it. You gotta. Every dirtbag show did it. Tell me I'm wrong.
This is reframing an issue that is now we've moved away from the electoral consequences of a trans ad to your own personal anger and frustration that you have.
And it's worth noting, the Democrats who have decided to join Team Kill All Trans People are actually not doing something that will help them electorally. If you actually look at the fucking polling on this, it polls like shit. It polls like shit even for Republicans, because even their voters don't consider this important. There have been polls that say that even their voters are low-key terrified about this obsession that Republicans have with trans people. This would absolutely be an issue where distinguishing yourself from them would actually be positive electorally. I am almost certain that the Democrats actually will have lost votes over the fact that a lot of them responded to explicitly, kill the trans ads from Republicans by essentially sort of nodding along with them and giving anti-trans dog whistles of their own. Because when you do that, because that's one more group of people who have nothing to lose. That's another group of people who have less to lose from the Democrats' defeat. You only have something to lose there if they were going to stand up for you. If they're making it clear, even at the time when they need your vote, that they are not going to stand up for you, that they are very much on the other side, then why the fuck are you going to vote for them? And a lot of their talking heads, a lot of their, propagandists on social media would act like this was sort of a no-loss proposition, that trying to embrace the far right as this new voting base was not going to result in losses of voters who have absolutely no desire to see a far right agenda in power, because it would get them killed. But it's bullshit. You can't side with the people who want to kill a particular demographic and expect that demographic to be as enthusiastic in voting for you as they would have been if you hadn't done that.
Left-wing media online.
Look, the gays are making everyone think they are the left. They're like, we're the left, we're the real left. Okay, we are super extreme. We want free surgeries for every criminal. Yes,
Why is that? That's not an extreme position. That is literally the position of the U.S. court system. Literally, this is, according to U.S. jurisprudence in the federal appeals courts, and actually the Supreme Court, the Eighth Amendment requires prisoners to have access to the full range of health care that they need, because to deny it to them is cruel and unusual punishment. Like, this is not an extreme position. This is literally the status quo, the existing state of the law. It is often honored in the breach. Often people have to go to court to get the health care they need when they're incarcerated. That's true, but the actual state of the law is that they're entitled to it. This is literally a status quo position that he's trying to act as like it's extreme.
For the left, and Nazi.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, it's so weird. It's so wild. People think you're a fascist just because you say people should be denied healthcare when they're incarcerated, even if it kills them. Well, yes, he is definitely signaling that he's against trans healthcare for trans prisoners specifically, but again, that is not that's not a demand even. That is the current state of the law. Like, Kamala Harris went to court to try to change that so that when she was Attorney General, so that she could deny trans prisoners in California the access to transition-related health care. And she lost because it is black letter law right now that counts as, because that's health care and people in prison have a right to receive health care at state expense. I mean, again, it's just the status quo. It is not a demand, and it isn't extreme.
I just don't think that this is like. I think no one that was mentioned in this conversation has any real motion whatsoever in moving the needle. Like, no disrespect to anybody. Lance and the Serfs, Majority Report, myself, or the Young Turks. Like, even together, we have no motion. The most motion.
What does he mean, moving the needle? Because if he's talking about public opinion disagrees with fucking Cenk. It disagrees with these transphobes. Like, public opinion says, let trans people public opinion isn't, like, massively pro-trans, but it is against taking away basic human rights from trans people.
Ever had was with the Justice Democrats, right, alongside Kyle Kalinske, and that wasn't because of the massive audiences that they had. That was because they were actually, like the Working Families Party or the DSA in certain instances, like successfully moving the Democratic Party in the correct direction.
Well, I mean, more like moving working class people towards the Democratic Party.
That's what brought us the squad, right? And it came only because of that progressive swing also happened because of Bernie Sanders too.
I mean, no, it didn't. Bernie Sanders had been in the Senate for ages, and he'd done nothing. Nobody had heard of him. He did not create the swing. The swing was there. What he was after Occupy gave him a wave to surf on was a rare example of a politician in the U.S. who sounded like a tolerable imitation. Yeah, Justice Democrats was bullshit. A tolerable imitation of what ordinary working people had been saying for a long time. That's all that is.
Open up the floodgates for that kind of communication. So, yeah, Sunrise Movement too. And I think like getting lost in the minutia of online commentary stuff is silly. I don't know. It's just not good.
Yeah, I mean, what people's criticisms of Cenk aren't about minutia though. He's literally jumping on teams strip human rights from trans people, amongst other things. He and Anna Transphobian have been, like, just lying about all sorts of racist shit as well.
It's not good. It's not smart. Do you think that America's culture of violence contributes to our crime issue in a memorable way? I just feel like our culture we grew up in America is different than Norway, for example. I think American culture contributes to it, but culture is just a reflection of the material realities. So I think that, historically speaking, American culture was developed off of American proto-capitalist sentiment early on with the Pilgrims, and has evolved into what it is now. It's like incredibly violent aberration. So American culture was far more left-wing than FDR earlier. Yeah, on certain aspects, you're right.
Let's say, what are we talking about when we say American culture, though? Because there's, like, the official culture from above, and then there is like culture in the sense of, that embraces things like what most people think and what most people consider to be right and whatever. And so when we talk about culture, we're talking about that we have to be specific about that.
Yes, but obviously, socially speaking, no. You know what I mean? Like, we had the Jim Crow South at that point. The New Deal also specifically carved out black people. Like, this is not, you know, this is pre-civil rights. We had internment camps for Japanese people. There were a lot of progressive policies that were implemented in terms of economic policies, but there was also a shit ton of reactionary policies that were also implemented for marginalized populations.
Yeah, although it is worth noting when we talk about the culture, for example, you go back to like the 30s and the 20s, and like the Communist Party was huge in places where you would not, looking at them now, even expect it. Like places like Oklahoma. At one point in the 30s, there basically was not a single state elected official that wasn't connected to the Communist Party at one point. It was a huge thing.
And I don't think that it's appropriate to cast these people aside. I don't think it's appropriate to write them out. You know what I mean? So
which people?
I disagree with that. Friend of the show on Friend of the Show Violence. Yeah, I have seen this, and I love Ested. And now that I'm one of the Podjons, I feel conflicted here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is part of the problem. This is why it's so wild for when like the young TERFs act like they were just so viciously set upon, because practically everybody who was criticizing them was doing it so gently, and they were doing it so gently because, as Uller and Nadi at the time pointed out, they all have a fucking relationship of some kind with TYT that they were trying to preserve.
I love Ested. He's smart, and he's. I always got his back. You know what I mean? He cooked here too. You okay? Have you not got enough credit for breaking the news that Joe Biden is old? You think you'd have more shame, but I understand that this is just like a game of Sims for you. He said a good ad for the importance of independent media. I think Ested should go on the Podjons. I think the Podjons should have him on.
Okay, this isn't really what I was hoping it was going to be. Let's see what else we've got. We've got a half hour to go. Naja, ich habe überhaupt keine Ahnung, was unter progressiv eigentlich zu verstehen ist. Das Wort bedeutet eigentlich so gut wie gar nichts. Die Hillary Clinton bezeichnet sich sogar als progressive. Yeah, but we'd spend as much time actually trying to find it. And all for one and only one person would actually understand the commentary, so. Let's see. Okay, here we got a short one. We'll start. Interesting. Well, drop the link in chat. I don't know if it'll work in chat. Try it in chat, but if not, drop it in the Discord.
To Paris over the weekend for the reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral.
This is Trump not even president yet, already humiliating USA, which, according to David Pakman, is a bad thing.
The fire some years ago. He had a sort of very brief moment where...
Right. Thank you. I got the link just fine. Good to know that will occasionally work. Okay, this looks like it could actually be quite good, so gonna stick that on the list. We'll look at that after this. Yeah. They haven't been making new sequels to Pac-Man in a while. They sort of used that property up.
they did like a public statement, he and Emmanuel Macron, either before or after the meeting.
I mean, which fits. I mean, they should both get on. They're both billionaires who lost elections and refused to acknowledge it.
And as usual, Trump just says really weird shit. I don't know how else to say it. It's just, why is everything he says weird? And is it that he finds himself intellectually outmatched by more serious global leaders? I don't know what it is, but check out how weird this is.
Le feu a pris la cathédrale, je m'en souviens. President Titus said, it's a great honor for French people.
I think most French people would probably disagree that it's a particularly great honor. But the thing about Emmanuel Macron, apart from the fact that he wanted to form some sort of a coalition with the neo-Nazis rather than allowing the left, who came out ahead in the elections most recently, to form a government, he thinks that Marshal Pétain, the head of the Vichy puppet regime during World War II, should be recognized as a national hero. So
5 years later, and you were at that time present for the first time, and I remember the solidarity and your immediate reaction. So, welcome back again.
Thank you.
We are very happy to have you here.
Thank you very much. Very great honor. And we had a great relationship, as everyone knows. We accomplished a lot together, and the people of France are spectacular. I guess it's one of our largest groups in the United States, French people.
I don't think that's the case, but okay.
And we respect them and we love them. Very talented people, extremely energetic people, as you know very well.
I mean, out of the things that I've heard him say, this isn't even particularly a weird one. I mean, I wouldn't even rank this as more embarrassing than the time that George W. Bush, in a meeting with Inácio Lula da Silva, who was president of Brazil at the time, as he is again, and asked him, "Do you have blacks too?" That is a direct quote. That is what he asked in a public place on an open mic. The president of, I mean, this is.
I love that. The French people are very talented, and they are very energetic as well.
I mean, that is not any weirder than a lot of the bullshit that like U.S. politicians say when they go to other countries.
To be here, we had a good time together, and we had a lot of success, really great success working together on defense and offense too.
Yeah.
And it certainly seems like the world is going a little crazy right now.
Yeah.
And we'll be talking about that. Thank you very much for being here.
Yes.
I mean, that rambled a bit, but even by Trump standards, that isn't that much of a ramble. He actually more or less stayed on the subject.
They will be speaking about that. I think I have a little bit of PTSD from the first Trump term, where every single public appearance was a complete and total humiliation. You know, just to kind of remind folks who maybe were not paying attention.
See, this is the thing about liberals in the U.S. They think that the U.S. only has a bad image in the world when people like Trump are running it. What they do not realize is that the only part of the world where the U.S. ever is thought of fondly at all are the handful of countries that the U.S. refers to as the international community. I mean, like Western Europe, Canada, Australia, NZ. Basically, that's it. And Israel.
Some of the textures. Trump would regularly, appear with authoritarian strongmen like Putin and go, "I believe Putin."
Yeah, but again, meeting with dictators is kind of part of the job. There's they even call it the dictator tour, because when a new president comes in, they go and visit all the dictatorships that the U.S. is bankrolling. And, they say, they'll give a press conference and they'll say, Saudi Arabia has made amazing human rights progress. Yeah, or South Africa back under apartheid, and that is just how that works.
Was very confident when he told me A, B, C, D, which, by the way, goes against everything our own intelligence agency said. Very, very confident. So the sort of like total submission.
Because David Pakman knows what the U.S. intelligence agencies are saying. This is one of the things I'm not looking forward to. One of the many things I'm not looking forward to. I'm not looking. It's kind of like there's nothing I'm looking forward to. But this is one of the things I'm definitely not looking forward to, which is where liberals pretend that the U.S. intelligence agencies are in the business of accurately informing the general public. It's like, that's not how that works. They're in the business of accurately informing their bosses. Anything they say public is what they think will get the desired effect. It may or may not be true. It could be completely made up.
Authoritarian strongmen. Not putting his live translation earpiece in where he's supposedly at a meeting doing work, and the counterpart, be it the Japanese prime minister or whoever, is speaking a language Trump doesn't understand. There's an earpiece for live translation available so that Trump can participate. Trump's just sitting there with no live translation. Just no explanation. He just doesn't care. Could not care less about what's going on.
Well, I mean, and the thing about this is that's saying the quiet part out loud, because, I mean, as a U.S. president, one of the things that you know is that the Japanese government will do whatever the fuck you want, and if they even pretend to be considering doing something you don't want, they will fail and they will have to resign, like the time Hatoyama pledged to keep this new U.S. base that the U.S. was demanding out of Okinawa because people in Okinawa really don't want it. And, of course, the U.S. insisted, and Hatoyama was forced to accept, and he resigned as a result.
We are going back to that. It's becoming very clear that we are going back to that, and that's terrifying and that's scary, but we're going to have to figure out a way together to get through it. And maybe one aspect of it is hearing more from people.
What gets me, another thing, I mean, like, you're talking about authoritarian strongmen. I mean, Macron has constantly been, he's been constantly claiming all sorts of new policing powers. He is currently refusing to recognize the results of an election his party lost. It wasn't a presidential election, it was a parliamentary election. But, like, refused to let the winning party actually form the fucking government on totally invalid grounds. He is very much authoritarian. Any definition of authoritarian strongman that doesn't include a guy like Macron? Doesn't include, like the Saudi royal family, for example? Or any of the other, like, reactionary, authoritarian assholes that the U.S. bankrolls, people like fucking Bukele, for example. Any definition that does not include them should be extremely suspect, because what they're saying is that the only time authoritarianism is bad is when the government also isn't doing what the U.S. is ordering them to do.
Who are doing stuff rather than from Trump, who likes to talk about things without knowing a thing about them, and that's what I want to talk about next. Well, I wrote a book after a long journey and a ton of work.
Oh God, the term post-truth, that's one of my other least favorite terms. Because it's not like, this idea that there was a point when accuracy mattered in public discourse in the U.S., it's not true. There never was. When was this? When the government was lying about fucking weapons of mass destruction?
Kamala Harris brat. And they failed. They tried to tell us that Joe Biden was alive, and they failed. Well, now they're trying to turn an alleged murderer of a health insurance CEO.
Okay, here we go. This is the video that Riveroon has linked. Wenn du Solidarität mit Israel zeigst. When you show solidarity with Israel. Is okay. This is somebody I've never heard of called Browser Ballet. It looks like they have this bespoke English subs. I'm going to pop those on. Hopefully they're good. I mean, they're not machine generated, which is nice. That I have a little bit more trust in them when they're not machine generated.
Furchtbar, diese Terroristen.
Ja, oder? So schlimm, was die Hamas gemacht hat.
Nee. Ich meinte Israel.
Ja! Das ist ja schlimm. Sie meinte Israel, nur weil Israel weitaus mehr Menschen auf dem Gewissen hat. Nur weil Israel ganz offen sagt, sie will, die israelische Regierung ja ganz offen sagt, sie will die ganze Bevölkerung Gazas ausrotten. Oh, yeah, it's terrible that somebody would say that they actually mean Israel just because Israel is, like, exterminating an entire population.
Was?
Du verrätst Deutschland.
Du verrätst die Palästinenser.
Unterstützt Kolonialismus.
Ja, stimmt ja. Also verrätst Deutschland. Was soll das heißen? Das ist eigentlich so Nazi-Scheiße. Und man muss sich ja klar machen, dass anti-zionistische Nazis eigentlich in der Minderheit sind. Die Mehrheitsposition unter Neonazis ist pro-zionistisch. Ganz offen pro-zionistisch. Denn das ist, was soll ihnen daran missfallen? Das ist eine völkisch-nationale Weltanschauung, der Zionismus. Genau das wollen sie ja. Genau das vertreten sie ja auch. Deswegen hat der Richard Spencer ja auch gesagt, er wolle einen weißen Zionismus. Like, and the idea that is betraying Germany. It's like, the German arms industry is the only reason Germany takes this hardline pro-Zionist position. The German arms industry is the whole reason. It was all about giving Germany, West Germany at the time, an image makeover at a time when their government was full of Nazis, when they were doing absolutely nothing to actually move on and turn a new page, and it was causing an image problem. You know, they were supposed to be in NATO, and on the other hand, everybody's looking at them like, you want to remilitarize these motherfuckers? They're the same people who are just occupying our country and murdering huge numbers of people. And so, the German government under Adenauer already said, okay, we'll start sending weapons to Israel and use that as sort of an alibi for our anti-Semitism, and that is still exactly what happens.
Doch nur mein Mitgefühl mit den Opfern eines wirklich barbarischen Terrorangriffs ausdrücken.
Ach ja, um den
Welchen? Ja, also zum Beispiel der Anschlag auf das Al-Ahli-Krankenhaus oder der auf das Al-Shifa-Krankenhaus oder das auf das Al-Auda-Krankenhaus oder die verschiedenen Anschläge in der letzten Woche auf das Kamel Adwan-Krankenhaus. Ja, also durchschnittlich werden etwa 100 Palästinenser am Tag ermordet in Gaza. Welchen besonders brutalen Terroranschlag meinst du denn?
toten Kindern in Gaza hast du kein Mitleid oder was?
Hey, doch, natürlich.
Ja, und deswegen trägst du die Fahne ihrer Mörder.
Armen Araber. Wie kannst du nur Gewalt unterstützen?
Hey, nur weil ich mein Mitgefühl mit den Opfern eines wirklich furchtbaren Terrorangriffs zeige, heißt es doch nicht, dass ich...
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so terrible. Like, I mean, it is so fascinating how the far right, because this is a far right position. The far right, again, as I said, their majority is pro-Israel. Like, I mean, which does not mean that they're not anti-Semitic. They are very anti-Semitic. They just consider this to be the effective way. Literally every hospital in Gaza has been destroyed. Alle Krankenhäuser sind betroffen. I mean, yeah, so she's sitting and walking around, and the idea is that, you know, these, like, pro-genocide people in Germany, they want to play the victim. Like other Nazis in Germany want to play the victim. They want to act like they're the big victims. When the reality is, I mean, they're showing this fucking thing where you're wearing an Israel flag and some people say some critical stuff. But if you are wearing a keffiyeh like this, you will get arrested. it's not illegal to wear one, but it doesn't matter because the cops will arrest you and you will have fewer teeth when they go to book you than you had before that you ran into them. But of course, I mean, the real tragedy is that people who wear the flag of a genocidally racist regime would be criticized.
Andere Menschen irgendwie abwehrt. Weißt du, wie viele Menschen jeden Tag im Gazastreifen durch israelische Bomben sterben? Ja, die Israelis müssen sich doch auch irgendwie wehren. Was sollen sie denn?
Wehren. Ja, natürlich. So sieht Wehren aus. Ja, also, das kennen wir ja schon. Das war mit dem Sender Gleiwitz nicht anders. Das ist ja deutsches Brauchtum. Denn was hieß es denn vor einigen Jahrzehnten, als Deutschland wieder wehrhaft wurde? Als eine Regierung ja wirklich darauf pochte, Deutschland soll wieder wehrhaft werden. Also das hieß Angriffskrieg und Massenmord und Völkermord und so weiter. Yeah, that is just a German tradition here to like say how are they supposed to defend themselves other than exterminating an entire population? Because that is like in Germany what they mean when they use the term sich wehren, to defend yourself.
denn sonst tun? Sich ausrotten lassen?
Das ist jetzt eigentlich keine schlechte Idee, wenn du es so sagst.
Natürlich nicht. Aber weißt du, ich stehe auf der Seite der Menschen, die diskriminiert und unterdrückt werden. Und die Juden werden nicht diskriminiert? Sag mal, hast du eigentlich schon mal in ein Geschichtsbuch geschaut?
Also in Israel nicht. Allenfalls von Israel werden jüdische Menschen diskriminiert. Schwarze Juden zum Beispiel, deren Jüdischsein gar nicht anerkannt wird. Arabische Juden, die von dem zionistischen Regime wie der letzte Dreck behandelt werden. Aber insgesamt...
Ich glaube, irgendwie war hier auch schon mal was in Deutschland, oder? Ja, da können auch die Palästinenser nichts für.
Außerdem war das nur ein Vogelschiss. Die Juden, die kontrollieren die...
Okay, das ist ja echt schamlos. Okay, dieses Vogelschiss-Zitat stammt von der AfD, der Alternative für Deutschland, dieser neuen neonazistischen Partei, die wir alle kennen. Die auch eine ausdrücklich überzionistische Partei ist, die diesen Anti-BDS-Beschluss ja federführend gestaltet hat. Und auch diesen Schutzjudenerlass des Bundestags, wo die Voraussetzungen an die Schutzwürdigkeit jüdischen Lebens in Deutschland, wonach alle Juden sich zu richten haben, wenn wir in Deutschland geschützt sein wollen. Also vor allem müssen wir den rechten Arm heben, wenn eine israelische Fahne vorbeizieht, um zu zeigen, dass wir ja völkisch-national drauf sein, denn nur völkisch-national denkende Juden werden in Deutschland geschützt. So, I mean, this is really... See, the term is badly translated here. He didn't say a minor incident, he said Vogelschiss, which literally means bird shit. Like bird shit on your windscreen or something like that. That is a quote from AfD, the new neo-Nazi party in Germany, who are explicitly pro-Israel, who are like the most hardcore Zionists in the German parliament, and that is not easy, because there's a lot of competition for that title. So, to, like, associate that quote, which comes from Zionists, with somebody who is, like, with a Nazi who claims not to like Israel, although actually their problem was with Jews, that is just shameless.
Die geheime Weltregierung, die knechten das deutsche Volk, die vergiften unsere Kinder und fressen unsere Brunnen. Oder war es umgekehrt?
Das ist natürlich Quatsch. Was aber stimmt ist, Israel ist ein neokolonialer, rassistischer, von der USA finanzierter Apartheidsstaat.
Ja, das stimmt alles. Was soll daran falsch sein? Rassistisch, also ganz explizit. Steht schon also die haben keine Verfassung, aber in den Gesetzen schon. Also, dass es ein völkischer Staat ist. Dass es Apartheid ist, also davon können die Rassengesetze, von denen es etwa 60 gibt, glaube ich, ein Lied singen. Von den USA unterstützt. Soll das jetzt etwa falsch sein, dass die USA dieses Regime unterstützen? I mean, like, literally everything she said is correct.
Free Palestine from German guilt.
From the river to the sea.
Tötet alle!
From the river to the sea in Berlin, it's worth noting, will get you arrested. Because the German government has declared that that is a Hamas slogan, despite the fact that it isn't one. In the rest of Germany, every court that has considered this has said, yeah, you can't do that like that. You can't just declare something a Hamas slogan to ban it. Yeah, exactly. And notice, of course, what we're supposed to be thinking. I mean, the guy who is supposed to look Palestinian, because he's got the beard and the complexion and everything, he's also saying things like this.
Juden! Oh, du hast da echt korrekte Ansichten. Ich habe gegen Menschen wie dich früher gehetzt. Also sorry.
Okay, this is such bullshit. In fact, in both directions, it's bullshit. Because, okay, some German neo-Nazis did actually try to, back when the PLO was the main, like, resistance organization, we're talking back in the 70s, 80s, some neo-Nazis in Germany tried to, like, get in with them and train with them and stuff like that. And to do so, they actually had to hide where they stood politically. When it became known to the Palestinians, they immediately were out on their asses.
Du bist auch voll korrekt, Mann. Komm her.
Ja, das passiert nirgends.
In Deutschland, ne?
Hier, das ist für dich. Ja? Oh, das ist Baklava selbst gemacht.
Super, sind so klebrige Sachen, ne?
Ja, ist richtig gut.
I mean, God, this is Nazi shit. Das hier ist Nazi-Scheiße.
Ich finde selbstverständlich nicht, dass man alle Juden töten sollte. Es reicht ja, wenn wir in den Staat Israel aufnehmen.
Das ist ja nicht das Gleiche. Also, als die DDR wurde ja auch vernichtet. Wurde etwa die Bevölkerung der DDR auch ermordet? Im Zuge dieser Vernichtung der Deutschen Demokratischen Republik? Die ja als Staat, also wenn alle Staaten auf einmal ein dem Völkerrecht unbekanntes Existenzrecht zustehen soll, dann hatte die DDR doch auch also ein Existenzrecht. Und dieses Existenzrecht wurde so eklatant verletzt, wie es nur verletzt werden kann, denn die DDR existiert nicht mehr. Aber die Menschen, die in der DDR lebten, die existieren ja noch.
Das ist wirklich gnädig von dir. Nein, du musst einfach verstehen, dass du mit der Flagge die Gefühle vieler Menschen verletzt, die unter dem israelischen Unterdrückungsapparat leiden. Und was ist mit den Juden, die gerade brutal ermordet, verschleppt und vergewaltigt wurden?
Ja, und andere Dinge, die eigentlich nicht passiert sind. What is sort of fitting, I mean, if you were to do this realistically, you would, see, they are specifically, like, using coding with this casting to, like, make her approximate the German idea of what a Jew looks like. In reality, the way this sort of scene plays out is you'd have some sort of blonde-haired, blue-eyed muscle dickhead with the Israeli flag, and Jews and Palestinians objecting to it.
Können wir mal bitte über die reden? Es gibt halt immer Opfer auf beiden Seiten.
Was diskutieren wir mit dir noch? Komm, wir schnappen die uns!
Ja, genau!
God, I mean, Jesus, fucking hell. This is from ZDF. Fucking hell. I thought this was just some sort of Nazi channel, despite the fact that this has really good production values. This is from German state TV. This is from Germany's Channel 2. ZDF. Fucking hell. This is, I mean, this is like Nazi propaganda brought to you by German license fees, actually. Yeah, the acting is decent in this because they're pros. It is professionally done. Holy shit, I did not notice that. Wow, this is how fucked up Germany is. That something like this just extremely racist bullshit, gets to be on state television. Yeah, but okay. I just noticed the time. It is time for me to wrap up. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I always enjoy seeing you all. I will be back on, I just saw one here. Ich komme offensichtlich von einem anderen Planeten, wenn das Comedy ist. I must be from another planet if this is comedy, is the first comment there. That sounds about right. So I will be back on Friday next at 11:30 p.m. US Eastern Time, and until then, I'll see you in the Discord. Thank you for the video recommendation, Riveroon. Wow, that was fucking rank. Wow, that was bad. I have chocolate cake to eat. Really, really good chocolate cake, so I'm going to go do that now. Have a good night.